On the morning of June 4th, 1942, the Pacific Ocean looked calm, but beneath its surface, two powerful fleets moved toward each other, one convinced that victory was guaranteed, the other preparing for a desperate gamble that might save an entire nation. Japan's Imperial Navy, undefeated for 6 months, was on the offensive. Since Pearl Harbor, they had seized the Philippines, Malaya, Singapore, and large parts of the Pacific. Now their next move was to destroy America's remaining carriers by attacking a tiny atoll called Midway. Japanese commander Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto believed the U.S. fleet was still crippled, with only 2 carriers remaining. He planned to lure them out, crush them, and end American naval power in one decisive strike. What Japan did not know was that American codebreakers at Pearl Harbor, led by Commander Joseph Rochefort, had cracked JN-25, the main Japanese naval code. They intercepted and translated Japanese messages for weeks. When the Japanese referred to their target as AF, Rochefort's team suspected this meant Midway. To prove it, they had Midway broadcast a fake message claiming their water distillation plant had failed. Hours later, a Japanese transmission reported that AF is short of water. The Americans now knew beyond all doubt that Japan was coming for Midway, and they prepared an ambush. Admiral Chester Nimitz positioned the carriers USS Enterprise, USS Hornet, and the hastily repaired USS Yorktown northeast of the island, exactly where the Japanese did not expect them. Before dawn on June 4th, Nagumo's strike force, 4 carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, launched 108 aircraft toward Midway. At 6:20 a.m., Japanese bombs rained down, setting fuel tanks ablaze and destroying buildings, but Midway's defenses held. Marine Corps pilots scrambled in outdated Wildcats and Buffaloes. Many were shot down, some never returned, but their stand slowed the Japanese and forced Nagumo to consider launching a second strike. When his returning pilots reported that Midway had not been fully neutralized, Nagumo decided to rearm his aircraft with bombs instead of torpedoes, preparing another land strike. His flight decks filled with fuel hoses, bombs, torpedoes, and unprotected planes. It was the most dangerous moment imaginable for an aircraft carrier. Fully armed planes on deck, fuel lines running, and everything exposed. While this was happening, American torpedo squadrons, VT-8 from Hornet, VT-6 from Enterprise, and VT-3 from Yorktown began their attacks. They flew slow, low, and without fighter escort. They knew they were unlikely to survive. Japanese Zero fighters tore through them. Out of Torpedo Squadron 8's 15 aircraft, all were shot down. Only one man, Ensign George Gay, survived. Almost every other torpedo bomber from the other squadrons was destroyed as well. Their attacks failed to land a single hit, but they accomplished something crucial. They pulled every Japanese fighter down to sea level and away from the skies above the carriers. At 10:22 a.m., dive bombers from USS Enterprise and USS Yorktown arrived high above the Japanese fleet, completely unnoticed. Richard Best, leading Bombing Squadron 6, and Clarence McCluskey, leading Scouting Squadron 6, spotted 2 Japanese carriers, Akagi and Kaga, exposed below with no fighter cover. The dauntless dive bombers tipped forward and plunged from 20,000 feet. In seconds, Kaga was hit by multiple bombs, igniting aviation fuel and destroying stacked ordnance. Akagi was struck by a single bomb that detonated near fully armed aircraft. Fires erupted across both decks. Moments later, Yorktown's SBDs struck Soryu, setting her ablaze. In 5 minutes, 3 of Japan's 4 carriers were fatally damaged, burning from bow to stern. Yet the battle was not over. The remaining carrier, Hiryu, launched 2 counterstrikes. The first wave found Yorktown and hit her with a bomb, knocking out her boilers. American damage control teams worked brilliantly and got her steaming again. But Hiryu's second wave found Yorktown once more, and this time 2 torpedoes smashed into her side. The carrier lost power, listed heavily, and was eventually abandoned. But Yorktown's sacrifice meant that Enterprise and Hornet remained intact and ready. Late that afternoon, American dive bombers located Hiryu. A coordinated attack hit the carrier with multiple bombs, igniting its flight deck and destroying its aircraft. Hiryu burned through the night and was scuttled the next morning. The same 4 carriers that had launched the attack on Pearl Harbor were now all gone. Between June 5th and 7th, Japanese support ships tried to withdraw. The Americans pursued. A heavy cruiser, Mikuma, was sunk and others were damaged. By the end of the battle, Japan had lost 4 fleet carriers, a cruiser, nearly 250 aircraft, and over 3,000 sailors and irreplaceable veteran aviators. The United States lost the carrier Yorktown, a destroyer, around 150 aircraft, and about 300 personnel. Numerically, the U.S. losses were small. Strategically, the outcome was enormous. Midway marked the turning point of the Pacific War. Japan lost the core of its experienced carrier air groups, which it could never replace. America, with its vast industrial power, would launch new carriers and train thousands of new pilots. Japan's offensive momentum ended permanently. Admiral Yamamoto knew the truth immediately. The war had shifted to America's favor. Historians agree that June 4th, 1942, was the day Japan lost the Pacific. A combination of intelligence, courage, perfect timing, and unbelievable sacrifice turned a small, vulnerable American fleet into the victor of one of history's most decisive naval battles. From that moment on, Japan would fight on the defensive, never again regaining the initiative. Midway was not just a battle. It was the collapse of Japan's grand strategy and the rise of American dominance in the Pacific.